This episode is sponsored by Kinsta. As a business, you have client meetings and keeping up with everyday tasks. Who has the time to stress out about site security and speed? Well, with Kinsta, the technical stuff is taken care of. Kinsta is your managed hosting provider for WordPress, meaning that customers get a hosting environment alongside a plethora of features, configurations, and optimizations. With Kinsta, you get lightning-fast load times, top-tier security, and unmatched human-only customer support. Whether you're a business owner, web developer, or running a digital agency, Kinsta makes managing your website easy and efficient. Did I mention fast load times? Just by moving to Kinsta, you can experience up to 200% faster load times, as well as enterprise-grade security. And thanks to their unlimited free expert-led migrations, Kinsta ensures a smooth transition from other hosting providers. I really enjoy My Kinsta, which is the platform's intuitive custom dashboards that make managing my website or multiple websites a breeze. Ready to experience Kinsta's hosting for yourself? Get your first month free when you sign up at kinsta.com today. It's the perfect opportunity to see why Kinsta is trusted by thousands of businesses worldwide to power their websites. Visit kinsta.com to get this limited time offer for new customers on select plans. Don't miss out. Get started for free today. Guys, I've got something cool to tell you about. As an engineering leader, a manager, and an engineer myself, I'm geeking out over a new product I'm just discovering that helps me with each of these points of view. The great team at SEMA, builders of the SEMA Intelligence Platform, have been working on what they call the Product Roadmap Radar. It's this integrated solution that uses generative AI to observe your code and Jira in order to summarize, synthesize, and make it easier to deliver your roadmap. It not only helps keep your roadmap on track, but it helps reduce the time engineers spend in meetings. Cue all the engineers clapping. The Product Roadmap Radar is extremely easy to set up. This only takes about 5 minutes. Just enable your integrations and let AI do all the mapping for you. My favorite part? I'm glad you asked. The radar doesn't just tell you about your roadmap. It suggests changes you need to make based on the code that's been written and the stories that have been addressed. No commenting, no special setup, all generative AI. It gives you an outside view of your roadmap based on the code and projects a target completion date based on outstanding work and activity. Again, no comments, no special setup. It even detects shadow work when development is being done but Jira isn't being updated. I'm pretty jazzed about it, and I think you will be too. Take a second to watch a short but awesome demo video. Go to codestory.co/PRR to watch it today. You'll like what you see. This episode is brought to you by Paddle. Don't settle for less when you can have more, MOR, with Paddle, your merchant of record. Eliminate the headaches of payments, grow your revenue everywhere, and focus on what you do best, building your product. Get more revenue with less hassle at paddle.com. This episode is brought to you by PropelOff. People take authentication for granted, but it's more than how customers log into your product. It's how you manage your relationship with your users. The easiest way to make authentication your advantage is to use PropelOff. PropelOff is more than just functional. It's powerful. With tools like Managed UIs, Enterprise SSO, robust user management features, and actionable insights, PropelOff adapts as your product grows. And the best part? When auth is effortless, your team can focus on scaling, not troubleshooting. That means more releases, happier customers, and more growth for your business. Save dev time, win over your customers, and propel your business forward with PropelOff. Check them out at propeloff.com. That's PROPELAUTH.com.
We basically allowed quite a few people now who are non-technical to start businesses and make a living, some of them doing very well financially as companies and therefore, I assume personally, without being technical. And that's something that used to be said to be impossible. And that's the number of people now to this point, I've been doing this job for 13 years, who have come to me and told me that Bubble changed their life is like more than is in the hundreds. And that's something that is particularly, first of all, heartwarming, but something I'm very proud of because it really enables us to have the life they want. And if it were not for Bubble, they probably would have a very hard time to do that. My name is Emmanuel Straschnov. I'm co-founder and co-CEO of Bubble.
This is Code Story,
a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do
Took
next.
many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their back.
A company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve
Most
more.
proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was a
Yes,
pain.
we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time.
The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really
It's
want it.
not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story. I'm your host, Noah Lappart, and today how Emmanuel Straschnov is happy to introduce you to AI-powered app development with the visual control you love, bringing ideas to reality. This episode is brought to you by Paddle. Don't settle for less when you can have more, MOR, with Paddle, your merchant of record. Eliminate the headaches of payments, grow your revenue everywhere, and focus on what you do best, building your product. Get more revenue with less hassle at paddle.com. This episode is brought to you by PropelOff. People take authentication for granted, but it's more than how customers log into your product. It's how you manage your relationship with your users. The easiest way to make authentication your advantage is to use PropelOff. PropelOff is more than just functional. It's powerful. With tools like Managed UIs, Enterprise SSO, robust user management features, and actionable insights, PropelOff adapts as your product grows. And the best part? When off is effortless, your team can focus on scaling, not troubleshooting. That means more releases, happier customers, and more growth for your business. Save dev time, win over your customers, and propel your business forward with PropelOff. Check them out at propeloff.com. That's PROPELAUTH.com. Emmanuel Straschnov grew up in rural France, which is interestingly enough where he started doing computer stuff. He mentioned there wasn't much else to do in the 90s. He grew up sailing as he lived next to the shore in Normandy. He never really thought he would end up coding, but after obtaining his MBA, he ended up doing just that. Outside of tech, he is married with 2 children. He mentions that most of his hobby time is devoted to them, but on occasion he likes to travel, continue sailing, and to sing. Many years ago, Emmanuel noticed that there were a lot of people searching for technical founders and using services to find technical founders. He thought this to be wrong, as many people have product ideas and just need a product to help them build it. So, he created something just for them. This is the creation story of Bubble.
Bubble is a way to build software, web applications, very soon native applications, like it's a matter of days now before we launch, without writing any code. So effectively what it is and what it's always been since 2012, we've been around for 13 years at this point, is it's a web-based editor where you can build your application without code. Mostly visually. I'm sure we'll talk about AI at some point because generative AI and the ability to use natural language is of course changing and offering a lot of opportunities, but when we started in 2012, it was not an option yet. So it's a web-based editor where you build your application. And then the other product that we have, which kind of goes together, is that it's a hosting platform. So the vision is if you build it on our platform, we host it for you and we make it run at scale. And so effectively what we sell is more the hosting side. We don't really sell access to the editor. We sell more just people running the application on our cloud. And this can get pretty intense at scale. Like we have some people building pretty big applications. We didn't get started thinking, okay, we're going to build a no-code tool. Actually, I should have said that because that's the category that got created after us. We were the earliest player, but when more players came in the space, people came up with that name like no-code. Back in 2012, if people in the audience remember, is what I would qualify the beginning of the startup era. Facebook was going public. Airbnb had launched maybe 2 years prior. So it was the beginning of people being like, okay, like there is something to do with taking a space and bringing some digital solutions to make it work better and launch a business like that. So Airbnb for traveling and like hosting people at your house and like making money that way. There started being this thing called like a CEO hunt or CTO hunt or technical co-founder hunt, where people were looking for technical talent to help them build their applications. And so Josh and I felt, Josh being my co-founder, we felt like it was wrong, that a lot of the people that had product ideas should be able to build the products themselves because they were actually very driven and smart. They just had not been exposed to code as kids and didn't have their best friend from high school knowing how to code. And therefore, we created the product for them. Going back to what I was saying, we didn't start thinking, okay, we're going to create an open platform. We wanted to create a way for non-technical founders to start companies on their own without engineers. The people we sell to today are still very much that, actually. More than 90% of our users and the people that get the biggest in terms of cloud usage, because again, what we sell ultimately is a cloud platform, are people starting companies and scaling it on the platform.
So let's dive into the MVP then. So that first version of the product, AI, availability for all those things, right? The first version. Tell me about, what you went through to build it, how long it took you to build, and what sort of tools you were using to bring it to life.
The interesting thing in our history is that we actually never really had like a launch event, or like a wait list. Like we decided to make our product accessible to everyone from the beginning. Not that people would find us, but sometimes we would get people randomly signing up because a friend would share the domain name. What I would describe the MVP is where until the point where we got people to being able to use the product and start building an application that would actually work and do what they wanted it to do without talking to us. And so given the complexity of what we're trying to do, because I actually think what we're trying to, the challenge that was ahead of us back in 2012 was one of the bigger ones in technology. A lot of people have tried to creating like actually useful, fully customizable applications without code many times. And so far, no one has succeeded. I would say it took us about 3 years to get there. So what I would call the MVP is a product for the first 3 years where at first we had to talk a lot to users to help them learn the product. And over time, the amount of conversation we would have with them would go down to the point where it got almost to zero. And now today people create an account and we don't talk to them ideally for them to learn how to use the tool. It was a Node backend. It was pre-Angular, pre-React, pre-everything. So we actually built our custom front-end, which was front-end framework, which was everything in technology, a good and a bad thing. The good thing is that we built it in a way that was really doing what we needed to do. And it was challenging. It was a complicated problem to create like a very dynamic application where we support real-time updates very well. You change something in that part of the page, and there's an element that depends on that has to be updated in real time. So it was the beginning of those different frameworks, and nothing had emerged at the time. So we built our own. So the good thing is that we had something very custom that did exactly what we needed to do. It does create some challenges when you scale the team. And I'm sure we'll talk about that in a few minutes, because when it's just the two founders building things, it doesn't really matter to build something in a standard that, is normal on the market. One thing I would say about our early MVP journey is that, and that's one of the crazier things of our story, and I'm not necessarily sure it was, we pushed that a little bit too long, and people usually don't know that, is that for the first 5 years, it was just Josh and I. So we did everything without anyone. We didn't raise capital for 7 years, but that is not that unusual. A lot of businesses actually are bootstrapped and then they raise money like we did. But just two founders for 5 years doing everything is quite unusual. What that allowed us to do is to create a very complex product, but at the same time, very consistent in the UX patterns we would find, because we didn't have that much coordination to have with anyone. Like it was mostly just two guys building everything. So the UX was very consistent, which is very important for a product that has a lot of features and complexity, like Bubble. But there are a lot of buttons. There are a lot of different flows of things you can do. It's a programming tool at the end of the day. But at the same time, it made scaling the team more challenging after, of course.
This episode is brought to you by Paddle. As a startup, you face unique challenges to stay competitive. You and your team need to stay focused on your product, not your payments. You need to do more, MOR, and DIY less. With Paddle. Paddle is your merchant of record, becoming the seller of record for your SaaS transactions, enabling your team to focus on what's important, your product. Paddle handles all payment management across multiple gateways and methods, taking ownership of tax liability while remaining compliant with regulations across all markets. The platform handles all aspects of SaaS billing models, upgrades, add-on, trials, and more. Let's look at the results. MOR revenue optimization is built into Paddle and accounts for up to 16% higher conversion rates, reduced payment failures, localized pricing, and churn prevention, recovering 40% of cancellations. Their developer-friendly tools are API first with comprehensive documentation, removing the burden from your engineers. With Paddle as your merchant of record, you'll generate more revenue, find and keep more customers, grow faster, and stay compliant everywhere. So what are you waiting for? Get more revenue with less hassle. at paddle.com. Guys, I've got something cool to tell you about. As an engineering leader, a manager, and an engineer myself, I'm geeking out over a new product I'm just discovering that helps me with each of these points of view. The great team at SEMA, builders of the SEMA Intelligence Platform, have been working on what they call the Product Roadmap Radar. It's this integrated solution that uses generative AI to observe your code and Jira in order to summarize, synthesize, and make it easier to deliver your roadmap. It not only helps keep your roadmap on track, but it helps reduce the time engineers spend in meetings. Cue all the engineers clapping. The Product Roadmap Radar is extremely easy to set up. This only takes about 5 minutes. Just enable your integrations and let AI do all the mapping for you. My favorite part? I'm glad you asked. The radar doesn't just tell you about your roadmap. It suggests changes you need to make based on the code that's been written and the stories that have been addressed. No commenting, no special setup, all generative AI. It gives you an outside view of your roadmap based on the code and projects a target completion date based on outstanding work and activity. Again, no comments, no special setup. It even detects shadow work when development is being done but Jira isn't being updated. I'm pretty jazzed about it, and I think you will be too. Take a second to watch a short but awesome demo video. Go to codestory.co/PRR to watch it today. You'll like what you see. This message is sponsored by Vanta. Trust isn't just earned, it's demanded. Whether you're a startup founder navigating your first audit or a seasoned security professional scaling your GRC program, proving your commitment to security has never been more critical or more complex. That's where Vanta comes in. Businesses use Vanta to establish trust by automating compliance for in-demand frameworks like SOC 2, ISO 27001, HIPAA, and more. And with automation and AI throughout the platform, you can proactively manage vendor risk and complete security questionnaires up to 5 times faster, getting valuable time back. Vanta can also save you money. A new IDC white paper found that Vanta customers achieve $535,000 per year in benefits. So the platform pays for itself in just 3 months. Join over 10,000 global companies like Atlassian, Quora, and Factory who use Vanta to manage risk and prove security in real time. For a limited time, listeners get $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/codestory. That's VANTA.com/codestory for $1,000 off. Let's move forward then. So you've got the MVP, it's working, you're getting that traction you're looking for, and maybe it's the 5-year time frame where you start to think about hiring. Maybe not. It's probably a little bit before, but I'm curious about roadmap. How did you go about deciding what was the most important thing to work on next for Bubble?
It evolved over time. It evolved over time for 2 reasons. First of all, at the very beginning, it's obvious. So you don't spend that much time road mapping at first because it's obvious what you need to do. And also, it was a resourcing thing that if you just have 2 people, you don't have to think about road mapping as much as if you have. Today, we have about 70 engineers or something like that. So it's a much larger organization and we need to make bets and invest our resources differently. Very early on, we needed people. It was pretty obvious. We didn't even need to talk to users. We wanted people to build web applications. Web applications need a database. They need users to be able to log in and log out and sign up. You probably need to have some kind of OAuth because it's pretty standard with Facebook or different providers. You need to be able to connect with Stripe or the payment providers because since we sell to startups and founders, they need to make money at some point. So we didn't really, at first, we actually didn't talk to users as much as you'd think because it was pretty obvious the list of things we needed to build. When we started talking to users, was not necessarily for roadmap. It was to make sure that the UX we would put in front of them would make sense for them. Because it's a complicated thing we try to do. Usually people do that with code, and we want to let them do what you can do with code without code. And you can create very complex UIs and UX. You have to make sure that works for them. And initially, the road mapping was pretty simple, where user feedback was more important. It's just making sure we would create something that was actually usable. Today, and so fast forward maybe till 2021, I would say, is when we started really making bigger bets from a product perspective. That's when we raised money. We had a significant round of funding at that time. So we started being able, okay, great, now we can invest. We can decide to put 15 engineers on something, on particular thing. And so that led us to invest on mobile first. So that's what we're launching very soon, like generating mobile applications because we started only for the web, and AI. The way we think about road mapping here is it's tricky. It's an art and a science. Like you want to be as systematic and quantitative as possible. The nature of our user base is extremely vocal. It's a community. We hear a lot of requests all the time, whether it's on X or Twitter or on our forum or email. Like people tell us all the time what they need. Like we're not short of feedback. We need to make sense of it, sort it, and make sure that this is the right type of users telling us this, and then we account for that. And we have some kind of like system to rank these. But at the same time, I still think there is an art here, which is what does make sense for the long-term vision and what does make sense as a next thing that will unlock our users in ways. I believe users are not always right at telling you what they need. They will tell you, I need this because they want to do something, but the way to do it might not be what they have in mind. That might be something else. And so it's very important to take the intent of the user and not the feature request. It's okay, what does the user need to do? What do they want to do? And then you figure out the right way to do that within your product. And so that's why being a PM is a fascinating job. I think it's one of the harder jobs actually in technology, because especially for a product like ours, where frankly, there's no bad idea. Like any new feature is, I'm sure we have millions of users. I'm sure someone will find value in that feature. It's not a bad idea for the user. It might be a bad idea for the maintenance cost and the development cost and everything. And so making sense of all of that is tough. For a product like ours, engineering is more involved than you'd think in shaping out the size of a feature, because given what our code base looks like, given the different constraints we have on the technical side, it does change a lot how much time it takes to build something. And so we associate engineers as early as possible.
Let's go to that 5-year mark, right? It was just you and your co-founder for 5 years, and then you built a team. How did you go about that process? And what did you look for in those people to indicate that they're the winning horses to join you?
So we started with engineering, because that's really ultimately we're an engineering company. And so we were looking for generalists at this point. One thing I will say is that now I feel much better about this, but when it's just 2 guys for 5 years, you don't actually practice work on that muscle, of the hiring muscle. And it was very challenging for us to know what kind of profile we wanted, assess them and everything. So it took us some time to iterate, but I still think it was the right call to start with engineering and start with generalists. We hired fairly junior people back then. Looking back, probably was a mistake. Probably should have had someone a little bit more senior. That being said, junior people are more flexible. It was a difficult situation we were in, and that's why I'm saying I'm not sure it was the right call for us to be just the 2 of us for 5 years, because it's difficult to bring people on board when it's just 2 guys for 5 years, because people are like, what am I getting myself into? And so we did find people, and I'm grateful they joined us, because it needed something to start the machine, but it took some work to find some people. So yeah, we started with a fairly junior people. That was fine. I actually think people that are willing to take risks out of college. Then the next function we hired for was success, or support. To that point, I had done all of support myself. I think I processed over 20,000 tickets on the support side alone before we started building a team. This also was a mistake. We should have hired someone earlier there, but that's just what it is. I got busy, and there was a lot of value doing all the support myself because I knew the pain points of the users very well. But that's something that was actually pretty easy for us to hire for, because I had a pretty good sense of the type of people, given how much I had done the job myself, that we would do that. It took us much longer to bring on design talent, product talent, and marketing talent, because we were very busy with our existing users. We had a pretty large user base, actually. We had a few thousand paying customers when it was just the 2 of us. Hiring is very costly at first. It's going to take you a lot of time, and takes a different way to think and different way to do work that I think we're a little bit too slow to start. And so, I wish we had hired designers a little bit sooner. That would have been better for the product. But now we have a full team, and that's okay. So when you do startups, you make a lot of mistakes that you regret, but as long as you keep moving forward, it's fine.
This episode is brought to you by PropelOff. People take authentication for granted, but it's more than how customers log into your product. It's how you manage your relationship with your users. The easiest way to make authentication your advantage is to use PropelOff. PropelOff is more than just functional. It's powerful. With tools like Managed UIs, Enterprise SSO, robust user management features, and actionable insights, PropelOff adapts as your product grows. And the best part? When Auth is effortless, your team can focus on scaling, not troubleshooting. That means more releases, happier customers, and more growth for your business. Save dev time, win over your customers, and propel your business forward with PropelOff. Check them out at propeloff.com. That's PROPELAUTH.com. Guys, I've got something cool to tell you about. As an engineering leader, a manager, and an engineer myself, I'm geeking out over a new product I'm just discovering that helps me with each of these points of view. The great team at SEMA, builders of the SEMA Intelligence Platform, have been working on what they call the Product Roadmap Radar. It's this integrated solution that uses generative AI to observe your code and Jira in order to summarize, synthesize, and make it easier to deliver your roadmap. It not only helps keep your roadmap on track, but it helps reduce the time engineers spend in meetings. Cue all the engineers clapping. The Product Roadmap Radar is extremely easy to set up. This only takes about 5 minutes. Just enable your integrations and let AI do all the mapping for you. My favorite part? I'm glad you asked. The radar doesn't just tell you about your roadmap. It suggests changes you need to make based on the code that's been written and the stories that have been addressed. No commenting, no special setup, all generative AI. It gives you an outside view of your roadmap based on the code and projects a target completion date based on outstanding work and activity. Again, no comments, no special setup. It even detects shadow work when development is being done but Jira isn't being updated. I'm pretty jazzed about it, and I think you will be too. Take a second to watch a short but awesome demo video. Go to codestory.co/PRR to watch it today. You'll like what you see. Okay, so this will be interesting. So, when you're hiring the team, you mentioned you got a couple thousand paying users, and then now you've got millions of users now. I'm curious about scalability. I'm just curious about where you ran into areas where scaling sort of reared its ugly head, right? And has there been interesting areas where you've had to fight it as you've grown?
We had a lot of scalability issues. The worst situation you're in is really when you made a technical decision that just cannot scale. And that's when you need to rewrite everything. And so effectively, I think we had to rewrite our backend maybe 3 to 4 times. We started with something called Cloudant, and then it was Firebase, but way before it was acquired by Google. Then it was Elasticsearch. Then we went to Postgres, and now we've been on Postgres for quite some time. We iterate through things, but it's still the fundamental backend that we have. One thing I've learned over the years is that you probably want to work on the less fancy technologies, but the proven ones. And Postgres was great for that, actually, because that's something that has been proven at scale by very big companies, and there is value with that. And it's not necessarily what we did at first. But sharing some anecdotes, for instance, a Bubble application behind the scene is a big JSON object. And we had some limits that Firebase had back then in terms of how nested objects could be. And that was breaking everything. And when you get to that situation, this is actually a really big problem. So we can find hacks like trying to move elements out of the tree to try to fight that limitation. But we did find ourselves sometime hitting some hard limits that forced us to rewrite things. One thing I will say that it's kind of expected. It happens. It's the nature of the beast. You can't overstress about making those decisions because otherwise you never move forward. You just make them and then you redo them. I don't even think it's mistakes. It's just part of the journey of building a product that scales. It did take some hard work. We had some times, and Josh was doing that more than me. I was more on the product side and building the product. It was more building the platform, where he had to put 3 or 4 nights in a row of going through the night because we had the big traffic bump, because we actually launched in 2015. Launched, not really launched because we were live before, but we were on Product Hunt, and we actually did extraordinarily well. We had, back then, compared to all what people would usually get in terms of traffic out of that platform, we were very big. And so, of course, things crashed for 3-4 days in a row, and Josh had to fix that, and that's okay.
So, as you step out on the balcony, you look across all that you've built thus far with Bubble. What are you most proud of?
From a product point of view, what I'm the most proud of is that I think we've pushed the limits of what you can describe without code, in terms of complex application behaviors, further than anyone in the world. And that means that's the Microsoft of the world, because they've tried for many decades to do that. Actually, universities, like other companies, other startups, obviously. Now we have created a tool where you can build something as complex as an Airbnb type platform with a lot of complicated logic. And it can get a little bit messy on the screen because it's going to have a lot of different things in your workflows and everything, a lot of elements, but there's no code at all. And no one has been able to do this, including complex conditions and stuff like that. And there's no code at all. It's just done through clicking. And so I'm very proud of that achievement. And that's something I keep repeating the team here, because sometimes when you do a scaling startup, you mostly see issues internally because you have the growing pains and all the things we can do better. But it's important to keep in mind that what we've achieved today is something that no one else has. That's one thing I'm very proud of. The other thing I'm very proud of is, and that's because of the very nature of the type of users we sell to and the use case for advertising, and the reason people use the platform is that we basically allowed quite a few people now who are non-technical to start businesses and make a living, some of them doing very well financially as companies and therefore, I assume personally, without being technical. And that's something that used to be said to be impossible. And that's the number of people now to this point, I've been doing this job for 13 years, who have come to me and told me that Bubble changed their life is like more than is in the hundreds. And that's something that is particularly, first of all, heartwarming, but something I'm very proud of because it really enables us to have the life they want. And if it were not for Bubble, they probably would have a very hard time to do that. And then the last thing which is related to that is, for some reason, it's not something we engineered. It just happened on its own. Back in 2015, I was doing a lot of support myself because we hired the first support person in 2017. And I just couldn't do it anymore. It was too much work. And so I decided to create a forum so that people could, like a Stack Overflow type of thing, so that people could help each other. And what started as a way for me to just relieve my work, because I would just tell people, can you share the forum before asking me that question? And I stay, of course, but people would start helping each other. So that would reduce the number of emails I would have to process. Turned out to become a community that is now super active. And we have some countries in particular, like Brazil, an extremely active place for us. We have a ton of people gather online, offline. In Europe, some cities of the US being bigger, sometimes it's not at a national level, it's more at a different city level. But being people gathering over a product I've created is something that not many jobs offer that, and I'm very proud of that.
Okay, let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
I've definitely made hiring mistakes and took too long to part ways with some people. One thing I would say for the founders listening in the audience is that, yes, if you start feeling that the person that you hired is not the right fit, take action fast and move on because it's very costly to keep them on the team. I don't know if it's a mistake, but because it's also one of the things that make us unique, but it created a lot of problems for us. And if it were to do it again, I would do it a little bit differently, is that we created the platform to be extremely open-ended, and open-ended in a way that we don't have limits. We don't have limits, really. We don't have limits on how many actions you can have in a workflow. So workflow is when the user clicks here and then you have elementary actions you can put one after the other. So we don't have limits there. We don't have limits on how many fields an application can have in a data type, in a given type. We don't have a limitation on the number of types. We don't have limitation in terms of the kind of APIs you can connect to through like HTTP requests. And we did that out of a philosophy early on because the feedback we kept hearing when we would pitch the idea before we would start actually having a product was, oh yeah, people have tried that. It's always limited. You're always going to have to go back to code. And that became so deep in my brain that whenever I would have to make a decision, I was like, no limit. Because otherwise, yes, we're actually going to make that true, that at some point you're going to have to go to code. And this created a lot of challenges for us after the fact. And you realize that years later, where you start seeing people that do crazy things. I've seen applications with 2,000 columns on the data type, for instance, which our interface is not built for that. So it's a mess to manage. Our backend chokes on that and we have to manage. And that's the thing. The reason it's almost an irreversible mistake at this point is so it just made our life more complicated. But it's also the value added that we have compared to other tools. I'm quite deeply against removing these things. If you allow someone to do that, I feel like at some point we have to make it work for us. That's the life we chose for ourselves. It does make it very painful at times. And so my recommendation here is think twice. It's much easier to start a little bit stricter and remove limits than do the other way around. But again, when I think back about why we made those decisions, I understand why we made them. I probably would make the same ones again. And I would tell you in another interview, in another life, in 10 years, that would have been a mistake.
Okay, this will be fun. So what does the future look like for Bubble, the product, and for your team? You know, we haven't talked about what it is now, you know, all of the stuff we kind of talked offline about AI and things of that nature. Tell me what the future looks like.
I'm not sure when this episode will go live, but on June 10th, we're opening our mobile app builder for everyone. The future, in the very near future, is that instead of just having web applications, now we'll have native applications, which I'm very excited about because you actually don't have any tool that do what we can do, which is web, mobile, and a complicated backend. Now, the next evolution for us, and it has already started, we already have something in production, but we're working on much more things, is of course like a conversation, an AI layer on top of our product and like conversational editing. We used to say that Bubble, back in 2012, the way we would describe our product was to say, we're going to make building software as easy as pointing and clicking. Now we can say as easy as speaking in natural language. And so bringing that layer in our product is really exciting. I'm sure people in the audience are familiar with vibe coding. People have heard about vibe coding for quite some time now. And you could argue that's what their value is. That's where the value is. You type something or speak in natural language and you get the code. But I think what we have is actually way better, because ultimately, if you're not a coder, you can have a vibe coding tool generate code for you, but you're going to have to look at the code. And so it's going to be challenging. What we have is something that is visual, that is much easier to learn and manipulate. And so I think we're going to have the best of both worlds, like the graphic user interface and AI. What it's going to look like in the future, it's actually not that weird. You could think about it. It's going to be like some kind of like a chat assistant inside the editor where you can tell, okay, do this for me, do this for that. And we are working, and it's actually working pretty well in R&D today. We can make modifications to application to build or to fix things the way you want in natural language. For the team itself, we're 150 people today. It's pretty small compared to the number of users that we have and the complexity of our product. So I'm hoping to significantly grow that, in particular for like product and engineering, because ultimately that's really what is driving our business. In the US, we're not thinking about international expansion yet, but at some point we will. The goal that we have as a company is to be the standard for software development, and that will require us to have people everywhere. But it's a very long journey. I think it's like still maybe 1 or 2 decades away.
Okay, let's switch to you. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to, and why.
Today, I've built a network of founders around me, and in particular, many of them being more advanced than I am in terms of the company building journey. They do something very different, usually in technology, because that's where most of new companies have happened over the last 10 years, but not necessarily. And they've just gotten bigger in terms of number of people that they manage, like the size of the team, because I think a lot of companies share, regardless of the field you're in, shares a similar type of problems as you scale. If you have 500 people, some things will happen to you and that you're going to have to handle. And it doesn't really matter whether you're building a no-code tool like Bubble or whether you're selling something online, like a physical good online or something. That's my support network. New York is a good place for that because you have a lot of people. In the very early years, and maybe put that behind the, arrogance that young founders have, Josh and I didn't have many people to talk to, and we didn't try to find mentors or anything. We tried for a little bit, and then most people, in particular people who had been in technology for a long time, would tell us that we were losing our time because what we were trying to do was impossible. And it was Squarespace or Wix. And we're like, no, it's not that, because it's web applications and website. But pretty much never met someone during the first 3-4 years, someone that would actually really get what I was doing. Maybe I did not explain that properly. I don't know. But so that kind of made me have this attitude of be like, you know what? I don't need mentors. I can figure things out on my own. Now that things have changed a little bit, because now people actually believe what we do, we have investors and everything, it's easier to find people to learn from. And then, I tend to look at people who have scaled businesses a little bit ahead of me. Back in the day, I would also look at a lot of designer work, like a lot of people doing like design work about the machine-human interactions that I think were very interesting to me. I wouldn't call that mentoring because it was not a conversation. It was more me watching their content. But that's something that did help us a lot in the early days. It did help me a lot in the early years of Bubble.
Manuel, last question. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world and can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit for several years?
Don't overthink things and listen to your instincts. At the meta level, you asked me some mistakes we've made. The one I feel the most stupid about mistakes is the decisions where I'm like, you know what, actually I knew, but I didn't listen to my gut. I was trying to rationalize something. And it's true for hiring people. Like at some point, if someone is not going to work out, you're going to know it's in your gut pretty quickly. You're like, it's not going to work, right? You have to listen to that, but sometimes it can be, should you go with that type of investor? Or is that actually a market I'm excited in or something like this? And so I think it's really important to listen to your gut because first of all, your gut is usually more right than your brain. That's one thing. And the second thing is that when you realize you made a mistake, it's very annoying to be like, I knew, but I didn't listen. And so you don't want to be yourself in that position. If you make a mistake because everyone in your whole body tells you you should do that and you were wrong, whether it's the head, the gut, everything tells you, your instinct tells you to do that and you were wrong, there's nothing to regret. You made that decision knowing what you knew and you do it and you're fine. In practice, from what I know and talking to people who have been starting companies, we often get like, you know what? I knew that was wrong and I didn't listen to it.
I think that's fantastic advice. Well, Emmanuel, thank you for being on the show today. And thank you for telling the creation story of Bubble.
Thank you. It was great.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
Otis, cameras are watching us right now.
Well, Spike, they're not watching us. They're watching Bay Bridge traffic.
They'll see us too. How do I look?
You look like Spike.
I need a comb. Are my feathers ruffled?
Spike. Cameras at the Bay Bridge help people plan their trips to and from the shore. You know then go. Tell them how, lady.
Go to baybridge.com or call 1-877-BASEBAND for traffic updates and real-time info so you can know, then go.